This is a skill video for the end of Unit 4 that is covering points in 3 dimensions. Okay, now typically we have worked in just 2 dimensions, and so if you think of our typical graph, right, we've had an x and a y axis. Now imagine adding a third axis. We call that the z-axis. And so what this set of axes usually looks like is we're kind of laying this xy plane, we call it kind of this flat two-dimensional surface, down flat, and it looks like this. Our y-axis actually lays horizontally, and our x-axis now kind of comes at a slant like this. So imagine we took our original xy axis and we laid it down flat. So the positives for the x's are now in this direction and the negatives are here to the back. For the y's, we've got positive y's to the right and negative y values back to the left. We've still got our origin of 0, 0, okay? And then we bring in the third axis, the z-axis. Now this goes right down the center of those, okay? So it's going straight up and down. This is the z, and we've got positive z values up at the top and then negative ones going down, okay? So as far as describing the directions, and these are important to write down, the positive x-axis, we call this a forward movement, okay, that you're moving forward as you go down the positive x-axis. And if you go back to the negative x's here, that movement is called going back. On the y-axis, since that is now kind of a horizontal axis in our picture, to the right takes you to the positive y values, and the negative y values are to the left. Okay, we'll use these kinds of words as we describe the direction of certain points. And on our z-axis, this is now our up and down movements. So up for positive z values and down for negative z values. Now because we have 3 different axes or 3 different letters, x, y, and z, when we plot a point, we now have an ordered triplet because we have 3 numbers. Okay, the first represents the x value, and then the y, and then the z. It's still alphabetical. It's always in that order. So this is called an ordered triplet, right? So it's not an ordered pair anymore because we have 3 numbers instead of 2. Okay, so if I were to give this example and the directions say, describe the location of, and then I give you this point, 1, -2, and 4. Here's how we would answer that. The 1 is our x-coordinate, right? And it is positive. And so for the x's that are positive, remember that meant forward. We would move forward from the origin 1 spot. So we would write forward 1, and then our next is our y, okay? And a negative on the y-axis, remember that meant, if we look in our picture, that meant going to the left. So after going forward 1, we would go to the left 2 units. And then finally the 4 in the z coordinate spot meant moving up, right? Our z-axis goes up and down, and so we would go up 4. So knowing how to describe those 3 directions is eventually going to help us with plotting points as well. Okay, let's look at another example. So let's go ahead and practice drawing that X, Y, and Z axes. Sometimes it's simpler to start with our Y-axis because it's horizontal. And then your Z-axis actually is the vertical one coming right down the center. And then your X is actually the one that comes in at a slant like that. Okay, so it's kind of coming forward towards you. We could put our arrows at the end here. And as we set this up, let's go ahead and put some little scale marks on here. For your Z-axis, okay, these just go, your little markings just are straight horizontal little marks. Okay. On your Y-axis, your marks should be parallel to the X-axis. So notice I'm kind of making them slanted, just like the X-axis. Okay, I'll do that in both directions. This is going to help us as we plot points, thinking of kind of that slant. And then for my X-axis, my markings should be nice and horizontal because that's parallel with the Y-axis. So this is how you want to think of your markings on your axes. So we're going to practice plotting our first point. Okay, so we're going to plot the point. Remember, these are ordered triplets. So we're going to have 3 numbers, an X, a Y, and a Z. Okay, and for this example, we're going to plot, let's see, +3, -2, and +4. Okay, so here's a strategy for finding the best placement for that point in this kind of 3D space that we're trying to represent. First, I'm going to focus on the X. I'm going to go to +3 on the X-axis. Now remember that means forward 3 units, okay? So 1, 2, 3 units from the origin on the X-axis lands me here. Now this is not my final point, right? But it's nice to have that as a reference mark. And then I'm going to find my Y value. Remember that this means to the left. Okay, -2. So from the origin, I'm going to find -2 on the Y-axis. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of draw these dashed lines parallel to that opposite side to kind of see where those 2 points would meet. Okay, so 3 units forward and then 2 units to the left would give me this kind of corner point here. Okay, from there, I need to go 4 units up, right? This Z value here, that's positive, so it means up. Now sometimes it's hard to know exactly where to land that. I know that from this point here, I do need to go 2 units up, but it's like, where does that land? So here's a strategy. Actually go to the number 4 on the Z-axis, which is way up here, okay? And from the origin, draw a line up to a height of 4. And what we're going to do is we actually create a box, kind of like a cube. And it's going to have these, and this is like the back wall. Okay, so this also needs to have a height of 4. Okay, so I'm kind of drawing, that's kind of the back side of this box. And then we've got these sides here. Here's the bottom. And then I'm going to draw some sides up. I'm going to change colors here. So from this front red point, I'm also going to draw a line up at a height of about 4, right? I want it to look like the others. The same height and same over here. Okay, kind of connect those corners. See how I created this box, right? So you can see that the height of the box, this height right here, it is a height of 4 because that's the height of this back corner as well, right? I made sure it went exactly up 4 units on the z-axis. And so as long as this height here is that same 4, then I now have this point in this upper corner, okay, that is now a combination of all 3 of those numbers in the ordered triplet. It was forward 3 units, okay, so forward 3, it was left 2 units, and finally up 4 units. And so this is my final spot for this ordered triplet. Okay, and so using this box and actually drawing it onto your 3-dimensional plane will help because the corner of the box is that point. So let's go ahead and try another one. So here are 2 more examples to kind of watch me create that box shape as I plot these points. Starting here on the left, my first x-coordinate is -4. So I'm going to go backward, remember that means back, to -4. And then the y value is a 2, and so that means to go to the right, +2. I'm going to kind of draw that dotted space. Notice I'm keeping the angles of those axes. Okay, so I have this bottom kind of corner. And now on my z-axis, -3. So I'm going to put a point down here at -3. Okay, go down from the origin, and I fill in and create this. Now it kind of looks like the front of the box. Filling in the rest of the sides. And so what I really need to do is to go from that one corner point that I had and go down those 3 units. I need to make it look like the same length as I went down on the other side. And then I kind of fill in the sides. So notice this length here of 3, okay, I went down 3, has to be the same length here of 3. And when it is, this bottom corner is now -4, 2, -3. That's my final point. And then my last one, I just wanted to show you kind of a different example. Notice here the x is 0, so I don't actually go forward or back at all. For the 4, that's my y coordinate, and so I go to the right 4 units. And then the -1 is my z, which means I go down. So I literally just go down 1 unit and put a point, and that's it. Right, notice it's not really this 3D box because one of the kind of dimensions, one of the pieces, the x, was just 0. And so this kind of is my final spot, 0, 4, -1.